Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday, and all of our guests today, including Farhan, standing by. Brought to you by our friends at the Whistler Golf Club. Again, opening day. It's tomorrow. Rick?
Can't beat that.
May the 9th.
Yep, can't beat it.
Friday.
Beautiful weather, too.
Okay. Farhan Lalji is going to join us now from TSN. BC Lions training camp opening this week up in Kamloops. Farhan, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you? You're not in Kamloops, I see. Are you going up there?
I don't know yet. I'm going to try to get up for a couple of days, but in all likelihood, given the fact that the preseason game is going to be here really, really quick on May the 19th, and I'm going to be in Victoria for that game, and I'll get a chance to see all of them and do that then. I may not get up to Kamloops, but to be determined. Certainly the Canucks have made it easier by not being around.
Yeah, May 19th versus Calgary in the Victoria area for the second time in less than a year. Farhan, we asked this of Ryan Rigmaiden yesterday, Lions first-year GM. What's a full training camp going to do for Nathan Rourke versus last year?
Yeah, look, I think it can only help him, right? I mean, this is a guy that just went nonstop for a long period of time. And the one thing Nathan doesn't really know how to do is take a rest, right? So even in this summer, he has been throwing virtually daily, right? With Rob Williams, either in North Van or at the Lions facility in Surrey. So he's kind of go, 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 go. And that's just how he is and who he is. So the fact that he can actually have an off season, I think, is a real positive. In that time, he's gotten to know his teammates a lot better. You know, we saw Vernon Adams have his own mini camp, right, where he pays for guys to come in and they get together and they throw and they do all of those kinds of things. Well, Nathan did that this year, and he got a chance to know everybody, and he got a chance to work with everybody, and they got a chance to buy into him a little bit more, right? And there's no doubt the locker room was somewhat divided last year, so this whole off season changes that. So, the new system, Buck Pierce getting to know all of that, I think he'll hit the ground running, and it's a real positive. We're going to see a better version of Nathan than we did last year.
Well, we know your favorite team, Winnipeg. You've already picked to win the Grey Cup.
No, I picked Saskatchewan.
Oh, really? Wow. It's still on the prairies, but hey,
Okay.
you live in Vancouver, and
Sorry,
nothing
let me
for
take that back. I picked Saskatchewan to lose the Grey Cup to Montreal.
Oh, there
So
you go.
just because I'm a big Davis Alexander guy.
Well, any team but the Lions. But
Yeah.
where, in your mind, are they going to finish in the West, and where do you see them in the West?
I think the Lions will make the playoffs, but I'm not going to sit here and predict a home field advantage for a playoff game or anything like that, because I think this team has a ton of questions, right? I mean, everybody's going to want to compare Nathan to 2022 Nathan. And that's an unfortunate comparison because that was historically good. But we forget that team was much better, especially at the receiving core and those skill positions. You had a number of guys at the peak of their careers that all kind of came together, and Nathan did great things, but he had greatness around him. Like, I look at this Lions receiving core and I see Justin McInnes, and I see I see a couple of others in that group, Javon Cotoy and Keon Hatcher. But after that, I got a lot of questions at 4 and 5, right? Like, can they significantly get better? Can they count on rookies? Well, with what they're paying Nathan, they're going to have to. James Butler, right? I mean, he's a complete back, but how does he fit into the scheme of somebody like Buck Pierce? They run the ball a lot differently when he was in Winnipeg than they do here, right? And defensively, I think they're going to get better, but there's still some questions in the secondary where they're going to be pretty young at the halfback spots. And those are two pretty difficult areas to be young at. So there are questions. Now, look, I got a lot of faith in Ryan Rigmaiden, and I've got the same amount of faith in Buck Pierce, and I think they're going to get the most out of this group. But until we watch for 6 weeks, I think they are the biggest wild card in the Canadian Football League.
All right. Another wild card, the Vancouver Canucks. Talkich names all over the place. They're interviewing, as I said yesterday, a lot of American Hockey League guys for the vacant coaching job. But the big question we have is, do you go with an experienced guy or a young guy, cheap or expensive? Which way should the Canucks go?
They should ask Quinn Hughes and do whatever he wants.
No,
opinion.
that's wrong. That's wrong.
No, look, I'm telling you, that's the single most important thing for this team over the next 12 months is to put Quinn Hughes in a position where he wants to return and sign an extension. So, look, and I know the organization is not going to do that. I have all sorts of faith in Manny Malhotra. I don't want to see somebody who's been through 6 different coaching stops, like a Peter Laviolette, that, because those guys eventually they're
Yes.
short shelf life guys. They're brought in just to inject something into a team, and they just don't last. So I don't want to see that. So I'd love to see a guy like Manny Malhotra be given an opportunity, but I also think that there's value in a guy like Jay Woodcroft, who has been a head coach before, as we're seeing with Travis Green. Everybody's better the second time around. And, he's a guy that understands the division, that understands the conference. He's not a guy that's just been recycled over and over and over. So, I think that I just think everything's case by case, right? Like you sit down with the person, you gauge their philosophies, you go through the interview process and see where they're at. I think Manny would be fantastic in this role. I think he's going to be a really good head coach in this league. You don't want to risk losing him to another organization again, but there are some guys that have done this before that, haven't done it too often and are ready and able and have earned a second opportunity.
Yeah, I totally agree with you when it comes to Manny. And Rick made a good point. I don't know if you remember this, Rick, but a couple our last segment about Rod Brindamore going from a long-time assistant to head coaching job. Last time I checked, he's a pretty good coach. If you're a Canuck fan, you don't want to see them lose him to another organization. I think there's something special there. Hey, Fran, what do you make of Rick Tocchet working for TNT this weekend? What do you read into that?
Surprise. No, not a surprise. I don't read a lot into it. I just think that he's having some fun in a place where he's comfortable and gets to talk about hockey. Like this is what the man wants to do. So, is it a reminder to everybody else that says, "Hey, look, if you don't give me the right opportunity and the right contract, I got a place to go." Well, TNT is not going to pay what an NHL team pays. So this is just going to come down to whether a place like Philadelphia or Boston or one of these places. Is a compelling enough situation for him, right? Because it's not here, right? And you don't have necessarily the chaos and the drama that's associated with this organization. But when you look at other rosters, and I'm thinking specifically of Philadelphia, you don't necessarily think you got a better situation there either. So I think Rick is in a situation right now where he is sought after, and he wants to go to the best place where he's got an opportunity to win. And I think. He's in a rare opportunity in life, and I think he needs to maximize it. So if the TNT thing gives a little bit of leverage for teams to say, "I don't mind coming back here," great. But I think he wants to coach.
What do you think, Farhan? You work for a Toronto company, like down Yonge Street, and then maybe a left on Bloor. Where's the Leafs parade going to take place? Do you have any idea? You must have some insight.
Oh. Goodness. I'm not a Canada's team guy because of the amount of oxygen that some of these teams take. And we know that team takes an insane amount of oxygen across this country, even when they don't deserve it. So I certainly haven't liked what I've seen, and hopefully it ends sooner than later. I can't begin to predict where that's going to go. Although, I don't mind seeing Winnipeg do well.
Yeah.
Just because they're kind of the least offensive. Winnipeg and Ottawa are the fan bases that the fewest people dislike, right? Certainly, and there might be some dislike for Ottawa in Eastern Canada, but in the West, nobody cares, right? They haven't offended anybody. Same with Winnipeg. So I wouldn't mind either of those teams getting in, but anybody else, thanks, but no thanks.
And again, it's not about the team. I like the makeup of the Leafs team, people we know, like Chris Tanev, etc.
Yeah.
But it's just the coverage.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
The coverage they'll get. And it's
Donnie,
your fault. Your
entire show.
Fault. Yeah,
it is. But like your entire show, you're gonna have to, like, Rick, instead of Hawaiian shirts, this is kind of Hawaiian-ish. Instead of that on Friday, he's gonna have to wear a Leaf jersey.
No,
well, he's worn a Blue Jays jersey before.
Blue Jays, I don't mind the Blue Jays, but I cannot live wearing a Maple Leafs jersey. Not gonna.
This weekend, go Seattle. How about those Mariners? 9 straight series victories. I hope they just smack the Jays around all 3 games this weekend.
Yeah, Blue Jays in Seattle, for people who aren't aware of that. Hey, Farhan, thanks for this. Appreciate it.
All right, boys.